Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me this morning. This is a new program we're calling Backstage at UIC Theatre. I'm Richard Corley. I'm a faculty member at UIC Theatre, and I'd like to welcome you to this program, which is going to unpack the process of how we make plays at UIC Theatre and take you behind the scenes of the working process. So hopefully we'll learn a few things along the way and have some fun getting to know how plays are put together by talking to the creative forces behind the work at UIC Productions. And today, we're going to focus on the first play of the season, which is called Reverb. And I'm going to start by reading a little bit of the brochure material that we have about the play, and just as an introduction to it. And then I want to introduce some of the folks who are working on the play and have them talk about their role in the production and some of the things that have really stood out to them. Reverb, summer of 2020, COVID quarantine, Black lives that have always mattered, demand justice, Black and brown people organize, allies galvanize, protests against police brutality turn violent, statues topple, and in and between the love, the life, and the laughter, there is a roar, a demand for justice, a promise of change. Here in Chicago, a group of recent UIC alum writers turned the chaos of our times into an online experience that entertains, inspires, and makes for a viewing experience you won't ever forget. Okay, so that's Reverb, and it's an extraordinary piece of work and contains a lot of different pieces. So I hope we can jump into that. First of all, I'd love it if our three creators here can introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their part in the process and how it's been for them working on something that they've created from whole cloth, from the beginning to the end. All right, so let's start with Lydia. Can you introduce yourself and tell us your role in this process?
Well, hi, Richard. It's nice to be here. So, I'm a colleague of Richard's at the University of Illinois, Chicago, and had the pleasure of being asked to come in and help when we had a play that Jessica Fisch, our wonderful director, had already begun prepping and had already auditioned when the world changed so drastically in such very important ways. And first, there was COVID, and then the movement that needed to have had the kickstart in a very unfortunate way escalated, and it was time to address these ills. We were demanding that these cultural injustices coming out of the Black Lives Matter movement be addressed. It was clear that young people had a thing to say, and that old people like us, Richard, didn't necessarily need to be the conduit through which these things got said. So I assembled a wonderful writer's room of terrific writers. I'm gonna let MarieAnge and Cam introduce their peers, but amongst them are Phia and Karla and Alex Hohnsen. And it was just kind of an incredible place. So my job, I was to be a showrunner of sorts, because it was a strange hybrid, right, of theater and whatever is this place now that we're carving out to make theater via Zoom that lives in a world that is neither theater nor television. And so I had the pleasure of being able to sort of have a crash course in television writing, which is a course that we are hoping we will soon be able to teach at UIC with a handful of some of my best and brightest students. Is that a good introduction? I think that starts us off.
Cameron, can you go next and tell us what your experience has been, what your role has been in this production?
Sure. First of all, hi, everybody. My name is Khameron Riley. I'm an alumni of UIC's graduating class of 2018. and I'm one of the writers on this project alongside my colleagues. Um, it's been a very welcoming and challenging experience. This is hopefully my first of many actual paid writing gigs, and I think it's an honor to be able to write for my alma mater. It shows that they acknowledge the duty of the arts, which is to provide a commentary to the times, a charge to the populace, and most importantly, a critique of our government. And that is certainly what the arts has always been. And I'm glad that we're still sticking to its core principles.
That's a great start and a great introduction. MarieAnge?
Hello, everyone. My name is MarieAnge Louis-Jean. I am one of the writers for Reverb. I am a part of the 2020 graduating class. And this process has been very eye-opening for me as one of my first experiences as a writer. I'm very new to it, but it's been also very healing and in a way affirming of a need to speak, and it's opened up my how do I put this, it's not opened up, but it's more torn away my fear to speak out and allow the world to kind of subdue my voice, the voice of people of color. So exciting.
That's wonderful. MarieAnge, can you talk about what it's like to hear your words come out of another actor's mouth? You've been an actor up until now, and now you're a playwright. What's that experience like? Is that a strange new world?
It definitely is. It definitely makes me uncomfortable in a lot of ways. But it also, in a way, makes me feel like I'm helping people heal, if that is possible. And I feel like I am encouraging others to feel safe enough to speak out, because this world has been built on making us fear wanting to defend ourselves.
Cameron, can you talk about a moment or two, or I know that you're going today to watch some of the filming of one of your pieces, and I wonder if you can talk about anything that's really stood out for you in terms of a surprise during this, or something you didn't expect, or a turn this whole project has taken that really was unusual for you. I mean, the whole project's so unusual, but what really has stood out to you?
Yeah, unusual is certainly one way to describe the project. I don't want to provide any spoilers to anybody out there, but you know, all I can say is just expect the unexpected. As the director Jessica has put it plenty of times, it's not a Zoom play. It's not. We're really trying to push the boundaries on how this virtual time has really prevented us from physically interacting with one another. So I'll leave it at that. It's you know, what's really stuck out to me is just the collaboration that we've all had to do. We're all building this from the ground up, and more often than not, as my professional professors Lydia and yourself, Richard, can testify, when you're making theater or when you're making TV, the script's already done. But we've been very much like building it as we go. And so there are times when MarieAnge have worked on pieces, and an actor would deliver a line that we thought kicked ass, but when the actor said it, it falls flat. And then the director's like, oh, this line isn't working. And so the actors would say, hey, you know, what if I say this? and we have these moments where we just have to fix it right then and there. And so these beautiful, like, cross collaborative moments where we have, you know, just like where we're also trying to bridge like these generational gaps, where a joke that my generation would probably get wouldn't go over well to Lydia's much younger generation. It's been a great process. One time Lydia had to bring my mom in for reference to see whether or not the joke that I wrote would even go over well. Spoiler alert, it didn't. So Lydia proved the point. But this beautiful notion of just like on the spot script building, on the spot world building has just been a very nice experience to me.
I want to say that the writers of the play, and I have in my teaching an annoying habit of infantilizing my students because they start to feel like my kids. And so it was really an honor to be able to work with these people who are not my kids. They are grown-up professional artists and rose to the occasion in this way that was sort of inspiring and sometimes heartbreaking. And our process was that we had a very intense and short writer's room process that was over the course of several weeks, almost 9 to 5, 4 to 5 days, sometimes a week. The writers would sort of brainstorm through projects, what could be done. I would give prompts and also sometimes didn't need to give prompts. But what ultimately happened is these young artists who have been, many of them, on the front lines, both in their what am I trying to say? Both in their activism and in their art and in their lives. And so the stories that came out of this place, out of this sometimes spiritual, sometimes painful, sometimes hilariously funny place of honesty, was exactly what a writer's room is supposed to do. And I would say to a person that they're all ready to go out and be able to have access to jobs in writing and I hope professional development opportunities, because these are some badass writers. They're really wonderful.
That's great. That's great. I love hearing about the process. And that kind of leads me to the next question that I wanted to sort of open up to all of you, but maybe Lydia, you could start us out with it, which is that when I read the plays, one of the things that really struck me was how they push the notion of what a play is supposed to be. And in that, there are all kinds of styles here too. There's all kinds of like ways of thinking about how you would bring people together to create drama, right? Some of these plays are like, text plays. I was trying to imagine how that would be filmed or staged, and some of them are monologues, and some of them are people speaking across Zoom screens to each other. And so anyway, they push a lot of sort of boundaries of what I think people who see it are going to come with the kind of expectation of, oh, this is what a play is. And I thought that was one of the really cool things about it. And I wonder if we could, each of you could speak to that and your experience of that process.
I'm going to let MarieAnge and Cam speak mostly to that. I will just say that, yes, there was this aggressive kind of reinventing a genre. I think Jessica, the director, did a beautiful job of giving us some parameters and also giving us our lead, right? But I feel like the work that happened that made this thing so expansive was just continuing to challenge ourselves to go deeper and be honest. And, and that shows in the absolutely silly and hilarious things that happen. And it shows especially in some of the things that are, I dare say, raw and beautiful and painful. and there were tears in the writer's room, and there was a great deal of laughter in the writer's room. But what we were pushing against also, and so I guess I am talking a lot, but then I'll be quiet. What we were also pushing against was the sort of European patriarchal framework that we've all been taught is theater, unfortunately, that we're needing to, we have figured out, or no, I will say the status quo has figured out how to listen to us saying, no, a new world requires a breaking of the old world sometimes, and a creation of something that is entirely new, to address the way Black voices and voices of color, BIPOC voices, have been silenced. And so I think that this young group of people have done an amazing job of just that.
Breaking the model, breaking the rules, right? MarieAnge, how did that happen with this project?
I think a lot of it has to do with not really having like a structure to begin with. It all just kind of started with an idea of something, but not really like, here's an outline and this is what we want you to do and this is how we want it to line up. It was more of just like fireball of ideas everywhere, and we're all like feeding off of each other, and you know, it had some mistakes, but then it had some brilliance to it, and the like full organicness, that's not a word, but the full organic feeling of it made it feel like there was no expectations. We were just all there to be our full selves, and with that came the most honest pieces of writing.
I would also say, MarieAnge, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. There were some times when, just because I too was raised in this sort of idea of what my role as a facilitator, or sometimes as a teacher, was around imposing limits on you. And one of the things that I found exciting that you all did was push back on that sometimes, which is exactly why you were the writers who needed to be on this project.
Yep.
It was the philosophy of the production and design team who had first just approached us with the notion that, you know, we're not in a conventional theatrical time, and so while that could be seen as, yes, we can certainly sit around and mourn the death of theater as we knew it, but we're also stepping into, for all intents and purposes, a renaissance and the ability to reimagine what theater could possibly be. And so we were told to write big, dream big, and then we'll downsize from there. And so all of us had to, especially myself, I had to just decolonize my mind as to what I've been taught to write, how I've been taught to write, and what I've been taught theater should look like. And it was a difficult process because we had a very, very quick turnaround time. But myself and all of my peers have certainly made some very creative pieces that pushes the genre and also elevates the conversation of, maybe we can change the way pieces are produced from start to finish. I don't know if Jessica would agree on replicating this exact process due to the years of her life we probably took off of her, but I certainly think that we all created something beautiful. Lydia was totally right. Tears were shed, and silent frustrations were certainly muttered under my breath. But at the end of the day, we really all just, it's like we put our degrees to excellent use, but then our first paid gigs were, hey, everything that you learned, great. Forget that. So make something new now.
Which, you know, and I think Rick will agree with me, is our fiendish plot all along, right? We want you to be artists who have your own voice, and we just want to give you a toolbox to push this out of the way and make the next thing.
It's all about the tools, and what you do with them is what you do with them. Right. I loved, Khameron, I just loved your phrase, decolonizing my mind. And I just wondered if you and MarieAnge could speak, if you felt comfortable speaking to a moment when you thought, when you had something in your head and thought, no, that's not the right way to do it, or the right way to write a play, or the right way to say what I want to say. And then you had to push that away and create something, you know, from your own lived experience or from some new form that you're creating, or whatever. Can you remember a moment when that happened?
Yeah. From one of the pieces that I made, a lot of the dialogue was just like 1 to 2 words, and it was supposed to be like a family talking to one another, and somehow, as a whole, you really got a feel for all of the characters and their plot arcs and their history, just within them saying, you know, hey, what's up, and the like to one another. And while I was writing it, I was telling myself, hey, you know, like, you know, how are people gonna get this? You know, what is this going to look like? But then I had to keep reassuring myself that this was my truth, and that, you know, there are some families out there who live in homes that only say 1 to 2 words to one another. And I had to trust the actors to really play up that subtlety and give that very terse dialogue that sort of depth. And the script really came to life.
What about you, MarieAnge? Did you ever have a moment where you thought, this is my truth, and I'm just going to say it, even if it doesn't really sound like a play is supposed to sound like, quote unquote?
Yeah, but I don't want to sound like rah when I say this, but like that's kind of how all my pieces are. Because I am very much a person who doesn't like to BS my way through things. I like to say what I said, what I thought, how I feel at the moment, because I don't want to give anybody the chance to rework it or make it into something that it's not. So I believe in just being upfront 24/7.
When I curated this room, Rick, I have to say that all of our UIC graduates are amazing, and perhaps I'm flattering myself, but do leave my classes with a certain amount of professional readiness, if you will. But this particular group of people was hand selected for their very individual and already developed beyond their years aesthetics and politics and ability to bravely speak truths that need to be spoken.
Beautifully said. Thank you, Lydia. I'm just really quite, you know, I'm so astonished at this whole thing, and that from beginning to end, that you know, that she's picked you, and that you've gone through this process, and that this has been such a, it sounds like a liberating process for you as writers and artists. I think I'd just like to open it up to anything else you'd like to share with anyone. I think that this program, I guess you call it, that we're doing here is going to be seen by a lot of young people. So, and hopefully some of them will come to UIC And what would you say to them? You know, Lydia as a faculty member and a future teacher of them, hopefully. And what would you say to them as former students about the opportunity that this gave you at UIC Theatre?
Well, first I would say that I do expect and hope that lots of young people see the production, but I'm hoping also that we can figure out how to get it to the masses, because the level of professionalism is a viewing experience. You know, since COVID has happened, I've been asked to do lots of professional Zoom plays and installations and write monologues for various theater companies. And amongst so many of them, I would say the quality of what this group of talented writers and actors and designers and director, just everyone came with their A game and have made something that's hugely viewable, not just viewable, but moving and professional. So I am assuming and hoping that this will get the sort of audience that is not actually just young people. I don't remember, Rick, what your other part of your question was. What were you also saying?
Just about folks who might see this and see it as part of what we do at UIC. And
I would say this is the best of what we do at UIC, and I think if we have anything to be thankful to for COVID, it's that it's asked us to expand into a future that I think we've set our students up to do anyway. And we've just all sort of been asked to be on our toes around how we dismantle, as you say, a colonized industry, but also expand it, because what is more accessible to the masses than being able to click onto your computer and see something beautiful, right? And interactive and moving and demanding and risky and explosive. And there's even another word I want. It's audacious in its ambition and execution. So I think this is the very best of the work that we do and have done at UIC. And I am excited because I think it's taught us, UIC, to figure out how to do more of exactly this, whether we're on a stage or continuing to work in this form. Something amazing has happened, and I think we, the leadership at UIC, have to and will have learned from it.
MarieAnge, what do you think?
What do I think?
Speak to the youth of America.
One thing that I have learned throughout this process is that writing, for me personally, I don't want to speak for everyone, but for me personally, I think writing is a superpower. What you can't say vocally, you can put it on paper, and it is just as loud and sparkling as it can be if you scream it to the heavens. So I hope that this piece inspires everyone to write a little bit, scream a little bit on some paper, and share it with the world.
Amen. Cameron.
Sure. I wish I could, just surmise it all in one or two sentences. But I feel that this piece is really just a launching point off into a totally different world that UIC has never really gone before. And so I hope that prospective students, first of all, watching this can know that that this piece sets a precedent. That UIC is the kind of place that, one, doesn't care about what it looks like in comparison to other conservatories. What they do care about is that they are a place that takes risk, that's not afraid to fail, and that they trust their students' voices. That's how I felt during this process. There have been I'm not going to say that there hasn't been push and pull, because MarieAnge and I can both attest to that. But that's the beauty of collaboration. And I would dare say that's the ugly of collaboration too. You got to give a little to get some. So I would say that prospective students watching this, if you're going to come to UIC, don't be afraid to fail, because even in the failure, there's a lot to learn. And even with the pieces that I've made that didn't make it into the final cut, there's still something there, something worth using. To all the folks watching, what we've made here isn't for the folks who have the ability and the privilege to sit in the comfort of their own home to watch a virtual play. This is for the people who have been deemed essential, who have been rendered sacrificial to this sustaining system that seeks to profit off of the labor of our backs. That's who this is for. So we just wanted to make that very, 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 very clear. And lastly, just to my colleagues, people who I've come to call friends, who I've gotten to know rather intimately through the production of our work. We looked at it and we thought that it was impossible, but we did it. Here we are. And to everyone who will be watching, just give yourself up to it. Just go for it. There is a lot that could be said in this year 2020, and and we've said a lot.
Lydia, would you like to add anything to that incredible piece of eloquence? Khameron, by the way, I love that you started out by saying, I don't think I can put this into words. And then you said
the most eloquent thing. Well, but you know what? I will say that over our journey, this has been the case with everybody. Everybody's like, and then they bust out with something that is everything, just everything. You see this piece, you're going to be all about it. It's going to be quite amazing. And no, I can't add to the eloquence and sincerity of what these brilliant artists have said. And I'm sorry that you don't get to meet the others, but they are as brilliant and in their own right. And you're going to see something that's professional. You're going to see something that's deserves to be, I would say, on any stage, but certainly in any computer. And so I have great faith that something special has just happened, and I'm grateful to the artists who've contributed. I did a small part, and I'm glad that I was able to do that. I'm blessed to have been able to work with these wonderful people, and I hope that in my professional career, I will continue to be able to work with these artists.
Beautifully said. I've often thought that a theater company is a model for how the world could really work if it really worked. A group of people from all different kinds of backgrounds with all different kinds of ideas about everything come together, and at the end of a period of time, they've made something new, something that didn't exist before. That's really, really special. If the world could work that way, boy, we'd be all blessed. So I just want to thank all three of you for your time and your passion and your love and your risk-taking and for this piece of work. Everybody who sees this, know that we're going to have a link to Reverb with this interview so that you can go right to it and watch it. And if you've already seen Reverb and now you're watching this, I think you will have gained a lot of insight by listening to these artists as they talk about the work. So I want to thank you so much. I also want to mention, before we go, I want to mention that you can see a name on your screen, Guillermo Duarte. And Guillermo is our behind-the-scenes person working to put all of this together and helping me and staying at my back. And I just want to thank him so much. And this is a really cool really cool moment. I'm so grateful to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Guillermo.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.